Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Dos Leprechauns podcast. We are your hosts, Jason and Nate, the Dos Leprechauns. And today is Sunday, August 18th, and we are just 15 short days away from Notre Dame putting a whooping on the
Louisville.
Louisville,
Louisville.
Louisville Cardinals. So we are live here on Facebook. We're going to let our audience grow here for a little bit. Can you go ahead and pull it up on Facebook, please, bud? If you are listening on iTunes, we have a special announcement we want to talk about with our iTunes subscribers, or those of you who are on iTunes. If you can follow us, leave us a review, and leave us some comments on iTunes, you will be entered into a drawing. We're going to talk more about this throughout the show. We are going to be giving away an Kathleen Kiefer artist, Ara Parsegian hand-painted limited edition print. It's a beautiful print. We have one here in the man cave. We're going to be giving that away. If you screenshot your review and your 5-star rating, hopefully, you'll be entered into a drawing to win that. We'll be doing that drawing at the end of August, right before the season opener. So if you want to have a chance to win something really cool like that, very limited edition piece, please go to iTunes, search Dos Leprechauns, leave us a review, leave us a 5-star rating, please, if you would like, and screenshot that, and you can message me on Facebook or send it to our email, dosleprechauns@gmail.com. Nate, if you could kind of talk about the contest in there on the notes, I would appreciate that. So we'll leave this in the show notes here on Facebook. So today is our season preview show. Nate and I have been working really hard researching our opponents, the team, the 2019 Irish team, working with the staff writers. Hopefully you guys all had an opportunity to read the season preview article that our guys, Matt Dunbar, Jason Pruitt, and Patrick McCormick put together yesterday. They did a phenomenal job on that. Really did a great job of breaking down some of the challenges the team is going to face, some of the things we're looking forward to, and then some of the things that will be needed to consider when it comes to our opponents. This is going to be an interactive show, so we really want you guys to call in today. Our call-in number is 951-206-9403. We are going to be calling a good friend of ours, a fellow podcast, Always Irish on Twitter. John Kennedy does a great job. We definitely have kind of a different approach to the way we talk about Notre Dame football, but he keeps it pretty positive, keeps it pretty real, and we're going to call him and talk a little football, Notre Dame football with him. We're also going to call Matt Dunbar here in a little bit and talk about the offense. He's one of our staff writers and does a great job there. So, all right, so let's get started. We're not going to waste any time here. We're going to start with the depth chart. Nate, you have been saying for 2 years now that Ian Book is the guy, and I want to go on record for about the 500th time and say that I originally was wrong, and I thought that Brandon Wimbush was the guy, and that maybe this year would be Ian Book or Phil Jurkovec time. You proved me wrong, and Ian Book is definitely the man. This is the first time in probably, 3-4 years that we haven't had a quarterback controversy going into the season.
Yeah.
So, Nate, let's talk about Ian Book. What do you think?
I think he's going to have another good season. I think he's still going to be the mobile quarterback that we know, and he's still going to throw short passes. He might incorporate some deep balls into his game, but I think he might just stick with where he's at because he's probably comfortable with that. So
yeah, I mean, he's going to have to develop the deep ball because if not, the teams are going to game plan just for him to do the short stuff that he's really good at. But one of the things I really like about Ian is just his leadership and his poise. Mm-hmm. He's not a guy that's going to get rattled. If he makes a mistake, he's going to come back and he's going to correct that and he's going to make a play the next time. You saw that against in the SC game last year. The team was down a little bit. They needed a little bit of a rally, and Ian literally takes the ball in his hands, runs it, and just obliterates some SC secondary guy and runs him over. And that really was a huge spark in the game,
yeah.
When you look back to that game. So, yeah, Ian's going to have a great year. Phil Jurkovec, obviously, is going to be the backup. Camp seemed to have started off a little rocky for Phil, but it looks like he's kind of found his way just a little bit. The thing that strikes me about Phil is he's just really, really tiny. I feel like it's going to take, one good lick from a linebacker or a defensive end coming off the edge to send him out. He's so tiny. Whereas it looks like Ian, having seen him at camp a little bit, having seen him at his camp stash all day, he looks like he put on some major bulk.
Yeah.
So that's going to be good for the arm strength element. It's going to be good for him running the ball and staying durable. Let's look at our audience here. We've got Jerry Ann Gold. How are you feeling, Bill Hackett? Hopefully good. Bill's our guy, man. Jason Lynch. Hey, Mater in the house. What's up, Mater? Bill Hackett said pretty good. Sean Hagan, Heisman. I don't know about all that. Troy Keenan's watching. Welcome back, Troy. We love you. Uncle Troy, Orange County. Okay, let's move to running back. So last year, Jafar Armstrong against Michigan had a touchdown. Had a really good game against Wake Forest. Was kind of spotty throughout the season. Had some good games, had some bad games. He got injured, so he missed a few games. But he's going to be a guy that's going to kind of be a key piece of that running back room. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, we're talking about our depth chart right now. Obviously, Ian Book's going to start at quarterback, Phil backing him up. I think at running back, the first guy that's going to get a carry week 1 against Louisville, first series, is going to be Tony Jones Jr. Nate, what do you think?
I honestly think it'll be Jafar. I mean, he's got that explosive edge. No, I'm not saying Tony doesn't have an explosive edge. I just think Jafar has a step over him.
Okay.
Tony's really good at blocking, so I see them using a 2-back. Have Tony block for Book in the pocket, and I think we'll be good there.
Sean Hagan says he ain't Team Book. I'm definitely Team Book. I'm Team whoever gets us wins. We got, Nate, go ahead and why don't you, Nate, you do some of the replies on that on the phone there. Okay, so I'm going with Tony Jones Jr. as our lead back, but I do think Jafar is going to play a lot, and he's going to play a crucial role. I think you get that two-headed monster in there, and we're going to be great there. Backing those guys up, Jameer Smith has had a great spring, great camp. He has an injury right now. He's got practicing with a cast on, but he's having a really good spring. I see Kyron Williams, a freshman, having a pretty good role in the offense. He's a pretty big kid for being a freshman. He's already about 205. So Kyron Williams, and then Sibo Flymeister is a guy that not a lot of people even know about, but he's got some talent. He's a explosive kid. I think he can be that home run threat down the line. So I'm excited to see if Sibo gets in there. Let's move to kind of a controversial topic now: wide receiver position. We lost one of the best wide receivers we've had in quite some time in Miles Boykin, tearing it up with Baltimore Ravens camp right now. So Chase Claypool, it's his time to shine, man. And I really feel like in watching the film of practice, he has really stepped up and said, hey, I'm going to put this wide receiver group on my back and really dominate this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to be like how do I say this? Like a Will Fuller, but like a team leader Will Fuller.
Sure.
He's not going to, obviously, no one's Will Fuller.
Right.
But he's going to be that team leader this year.
So you got Chase on the at the boundary. The field receiver was going to be Michael Young Jr. Of course, we got some bad news last night and then into this morning. Matt Dunbar hearing that looks like Michael Young may have a fractured clavicle, which could be anywhere between 6 to 10 weeks, anywhere in between that. So really tough break, no pun intended, for Michael Young. I think in that role that you're going to see Lawrence Keys maybe be our field guy. He's a sophomore that not the tallest guy. He's 5'11", about 180. But he's quick, man. He's kind of that home run threat that we need. So I could see him being there. Slot receiver, it's obvious. The captain, Chris Fink, baby. Slippery fox, man. I can't say enough about Chris Fink, from walk-on to captain, and really one of the better slot receivers in the country, in my opinion. And that's a humble opinion. That's an opinion that I think a lot of people probably share at this point. The kid is just tough, makes every catch you need him to make, and is just an absolute, absolute team leader on this 2019 Irish football team. Tight ends, another one that, I was so excited for Cole Kmet to really emerge on the scene as a top tight end guy in the country. And, of course, Cole's going to be missing probably 4 to 6 weeks, so he'll miss probably the Louisville, New Mexico, and probably the game right after that, too. So I would imagine he'll miss the first 3 games at least. So, but, with when one door closes, another one opens. I tell you that all the time with football. Brock Wright, man, another guy that's going to step in. Brock Wright's a little bit of a different cat than a Cole Kmet. He's, in my opinion, he's a little bit more of a better blocker than Cole Kmet. I don't think he has the athleticism of a Cole Kmet, but he's still a solid tight end. He caught a touchdown pass last year. Good hands, seems to be a good team guy, good attitude guy. And then behind Brock Wright is a guy that I am super excited about, and I have been since we signed him, Tommy Trimble, the sophomore. 6'3", 235, sophomore. I feel like he's going to really fill that void left by Cole when it comes to maybe stretching the field a little bit more, getting your tight ends involved in the passing game. Really excited to see some of the 2 tight end sets and what Coach Long is able to do there. Tommy Trimble, look for him he's number 24. He's number 24 out there, so you're going to see him making some plays. Are you keeping the comments going? Let's look in here. We got Clinton Caldwell's watching. Thanks for all your support, buddy. He said, "Sup, fellas, on lunch break. Thought I was going to miss it. Claypool going to be a beast this year. Couldn't agree more." Jason Lynch, a.k.a. Mater, said, "Won't hurt as bad as you think. We are pretty good skill positions, lots of depth." Agreed. Richard Stevens says, "Hopefully our linebackers step up and make plays." We'll be talking about that in just a minute. Jason Lynch also mentioned a name that a lot of people are forgetting about. Highly recruited. I think he was a 5-star or at least a high 4-star. George Takux is a sophomore coming in. He's another tight end that'll see some action. I think all 4 of those guys are going to play. with the lion's share of the balls going to Tommy Trimble and Brock Wright. All right, getting into the offensive line positions. Left tackle, Liam Eichenberg. I mean, just an absolute monstrous human, 6'6", 310. He's a senior, and he's just a mauler, man. Last year, he's the guy that kind of sits there and, talks about how we're going to shut him the hell up, and just, I mean, he's just a monster. I love Liam Eichenberg. At left guard, Aaron Banks, big boy, 6'6", 325 junior. He's a good offensive lineman. He had a good year last year. It's nice to have him and Liam on the left side coming back. The center position, I'm going to be honest, is probably my biggest area of concern on the entire offense. You got a guy in a redshirt sophomore, with Jarrett Patterson coming in there playing the most crucial role on the offensive line at center. Having to make a good snap, get off your block, call out the reads, call out the coverage, things like that. What do you think, man? Is Jarrett Patterson going to be able to fill a huge void left by Sam Mustipher?
I honestly think he is, because if he wasn't, I feel like Kelly would have done something, moved a guard over, tackle, whatever, taught him how to play. But I haven't heard anything or seen anything, so it seems to me that Book and Patterson are on the same page, so that's a good thing.
No, you're right, and that's a great point, because I think Kelly is the type of coach that if something's not looking right, he's going to make that change. I think we've seen that before, so good call on that. Colin Grunhard will back up Jarrett Patterson, so Colin obviously has that pedigree of his dad playing at Notre Dame. He's a tough player, but he's undersized. Let's be honest. He's 6'1", I think he's 280, 270, 275, 280, something like that. So hopefully Jarrett Patterson can stay healthy and pick everything up pretty quickly. Lynch said, I think he will do great. He's a big old boy. Yes, he is. At right tackle, moving to the left side, Robert Hainsey, another captain on that offensive line. To me, that's huge. When you have an offensive lineman as a captain, obviously Mike McGlinchey, Quentin Nelson, those guys were all-world athletes, all-world players. Robert Hainsey's kind of a blue-collar guy. He's real tough as nails, great technique, works his butt off. And I'm telling you, from being at fantasy camp with this dude, he is truly a leader of that offensive line. He was out there with Liam coaching us up, us old fat guys out there trying to be like them. And, he doesn't let up. He stays on everybody to do their job every day, come out there with the same intensity. Huge fan of Robert Hainsey. I think he's going to have a monster year and really emerge on the scene. So that's your right tackle. And then at right guard, of course, highly recruited 5-star offensive lineman, senior this year. It seems like he's been on the team forever. Tommy Kramer coming back. So you have a lot of continuity on the offensive line coming back. 4 out of 5 starters coming back. Really, really sets us up to do some good things, moving the football, running the ball. Chip Long being able to do what he wants to do. One thing I noticed was they're working on a lot of up-tempo at practice, which we have been wanting to see for a long time. So I'm really hoping that we'll continue that along the way. So he's got to get that connection fixed. Keep cutting out. That's not good. All right. Well, hopefully we're doing okay on that. We'll keep working on this here. Moving on to the defense. Lost a lot of guys on the defense, but we're going to start off with the obvious. You got two of the best best defensive end tandem in the entire country with Julian Okwara and Khalid Kareem. Nate, what do you see from those two guys?
I think that's going to be the workhorse of the defense. They get that push, then we're set on defense. That's what I think.
And then backing those guys up, there's two guys that are no pushovers in their own right, in Aid Agandiju and Dalen Hayes. So you've got a rotation right there of 4 guys that can come in and really do some damage pretty much whenever they want. Defensive tackle, I know a lot of people are worried with Tillery being gone, but you got MTA, Myron Amosa, I always mess up his name. We're just going to call him MTA. Kurt Heinisch at the nose position, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say something. I don't think Heinisch starts against Louisville. I think it's either going to be Jacob Lacey or Jamion Franklin, and Jamion Franklin maybe even playing a lot over in addition to MTA. So I'm going with Jacob Lacey starting at the nose tackle position. He's 6'2", 295, very highly touted out of high school. I've heard he's had a tremendous camp, so I could totally see Jacob Lacey starting in place of Heinisch. What do you think?
Well, I was actually going to say Heinisch is going to have a big season. That's what I thought. But, we'll see. If Heinisch can get some sacks and some tackles and some good pushes, then, he'll start. But we have to see that first.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that Jacob Lacey is such a superior athlete. The good thing is we have depth all over. We didn't even talk about Hunter Spears, who's an incoming freshman. I mentioned Jamion Franklin, who we're really high on, number 55. You got the Admilola brothers. You got a lot of talent there at the defensive tackle position. I'm getting a little bit just give it. Okay. Then let's move on to the linebacker position. Here's another one. You're losing an All-American caliber players in Drew Tranquil and Tavon Coney to the NFL. By the way, shout out Drew is having a killer camp with the Chargers, which is awesome. But with that, you got a lot of guys that are going to come in and really have to establish themselves and be those go-to guys that we need. Middle linebacker, is probably the one that I feel is the most solidified with Asmer Belial. He's going to have to be the unequivocal leader of that defense the linebacker group. At the weak side, I think there's two guys that I'm really, really, really excited to see play an integral part of the defense, and that's Temecula, California's own Jack Lamb, who was hurt last year but is an absolute killer. He goes 6'4", 233, big kid, sophomore. And then Jordan Gidmark-Heath, another Cali kid from San Diego. So Jordan Gidmark-Heath, Jack Lamb, I look to be establish themselves at the weak side linebacker position. Shane Simon is another guy that's got some playing time that could play weak side. At the rover position, this is the one that probably has the most excitement in terms of the linebacker position because you got a guy in, let's see if we can get his name right, Jeremiah Owusu Kormoha. But they're just calling him Woo, so we're going to call him Woo for the rest of the season. So when you hear us say Woo, that's Jeremiah Owusu Kormoha, and he's playing at the rover position. And the cool thing is he was actually recruited to play the rover position. So that's going to play huge for us. What do you think about our linebacker group, Nate?
I think it's going to be good this season. Like you said, we're losing out on a couple of huge guys. They went to the NFL. But I think this is going to be a learning year for our linebackers. We may get beat sometimes. That'll happen. But like I said, if we get a push on the D-line, I think we'll be just fine.
Absolutely. And we're going to get that push. I mean, you have to account for everybody on that line, and how are you going to account for Khalid Kareem and Julian Aquara, Dalian Hayes, Aid, always in the backfield every play? I mean, it's going to be really exciting. Coming into the season, I didn't know much about what we were going to do at linebacker other than Jack Lamb would play in somehow, but I really feel like our defense is going to be a strong suit, and let's continue that conversation with free the safety position. Holy cow. Yeah. Alohi Gilman, captain, Jalen Elliott, captain. Two guys, the anchors of your defense as captains, two unequivocal leaders of this defense. Alohi Gilman's tough as nails, just ball hawk all over the field all the time. Jalen Elliott, I think he had 4 or 5 picks last year. Absolute stud. Just really, really excited about the safety position. And then another reason for a lot of excitement amongst Irish fans is the 5-star safety that is just absolutely burst onto the scene like I haven't seen in a long time from somebody at that position with us, and that's Kyle Hamilton. Yeah. Kyle Hamilton, I think he's up to 7 picks or something crazy like that in the camp. Really, really incredible when you think about the fact that this kid is 18 years old, first camp with Notre Dame, learning a relatively not really complicated scheme like a Van Gorder scheme, but it's college football. It's gonna be a lot different than high school, and he's he's a man amongst boys already as a freshman. So Matt Dunbar, one of our head staff writer, thinks that you're going to see Kyle Hamilton get some sort of playing time in every single game this year. I personally think he's going to play sparingly. I think he might. I don't think he's going to get any real crucial snaps, but I think he will play. But I don't think he'll play in every game.
Yeah, I think he's going to develop slowly into games. So like Louisville play a little bit, and then New Mexico, and then so on. Yeah. And I think it was really good that he got a pick off Ian in practice.
Well, and Phil.
Yeah, and Phil the other day.
A lot of people on our Dose Leprechauns page have said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Not sure whether to be excited or not. I think it's how you want to feel it. It's practice. It's totally different when you got 87 and 89,000 at the big house, 110,000 people screaming and yelling and going crazy. It's a lot different doing that at practice with your coaches yelling at you than it is with 100,000 people screaming fans. So we'll see what happens. Either way, it's a good problem to have, a good thing to have. At the cornerback positions, playing the boundary, of course, Troy Pride Jr., one of the fastest players in college football, had a big year last year. He doesn't get the same hype that some of the other guys have had in the past, but he's just a solid player, man. He's I wouldn't say he's Pride Island yet or anything like that, but he's definitely a good corner. I could see him really, really coming out this year as a senior, and end up being a top 3-4 draft pick next year.
Yeah.
And then at the field corner position. I know a lot of people are upset about this, but I think you're going to see a steady rotation at all the corner positions, especially here at the field corner. I really do think with the experience being a senior, Dante Vaughn, who, fans like to pick on, what have you done for me lately type deal. Dante Vaughn let's be honest, did not have a good game last year against Clemson. You know, filling in for the pro and New York Giant Julian Love, but it's Dante Vaughn. I mean, he's a guy that can get the job done. He knows the defense. He's big. He's a big body corner, 6'3", 212, and he's a good player. Is he a Julian Love? Not a chance. But can he make plays? Absolutely. But then you have Houston Griffin, who I think is probably going to establish himself as a starter pretty quickly. But I do think you're going to see a lot of Dante Vaughn, and I think that's going to be a good thing for this football team, as he's a good player.
We also got to realize that Dante Vaughn came in the game against Clemson, who have dangerous wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, they're all world.
Yeah, and he wasn't even starting that game. So he came in and had to try to compete with those Clemson wide receivers that torched Alabama's defense and our defense. And so...
Okay, so then that's the corner position. At the nickelback spot, I'm really excited. I really hope Sean Crawford can stay healthy finally. If he can, he's a guy that I think can be a really great addition to this defense. You know, we really haven't been able to rely on him too much in the last couple years. But he's a graduate student this year, so he's got a lot of experience, knows the defense. Just got to stay healthy, man. And then, you know, behind him, you're going to have I think you're going to see a lot of Tariq Bracy. I've heard a lot of good things about him this camp. I don't think he's going to have to be relied on a lot like he was last year, which will be good because that'll give him a chance to adjust to the speed of the college football game. He did have a bad shoulder, and it was exposed, not completely on him. Absolutely, Lynch. Good point. Coach Kelly, in my opinion, take more chances downfield and allow our players to make the plays. Ken Murphy says that. Good. Clinton Caldwell says, I'm always excited when the D gets a pick, gives our offense top talent. It's nice when there's no drop-off from the defensive talent from practice to game day. Doesn't mean the offense is off. That's right. Okay, so that's our breakdown of our who we think is going to start. Obviously, place kicker is going to be Jonathan Doer. Harrison Leonard, though, a freshman, is heard he's been doing pretty good too. So we might be carrying two kickers. Jonathan Doer will be handling the kickoff duties. Jay Bramblett, who you've heard a lot about from from Coach Kelly. This camp apparently has had a really great camp coming in for Tyler Newsome. Tyler Newsome had a lot of good things to say about him. And Jay Bramblett is a high school quarterback, a very good high school quarterback. So I'm not saying it'd be nice to see a fake punt, but it'd be nice to see a fake punt here and there. So
I mean, yeah, why not?
Let's see what Coach Poe does with that situation. Long snapper, you got John Shannon coming back for his senior year. That dude is just about as automatic as Scott Daly was. He'll go down there and get his nose dirty and make some tackles. Excited for that. Punt return, you're going to have Chris Fink, obviously. He doesn't know how to fair catch the football. He always wants to make a play, and I appreciate that. But I always cringe anytime there's a punt because I've just been tortured for years of muff punts and just random things happening. You know, tapping somebody's freaking face mask on the punt return. So yeah, I'm always nervous on a punt return. I don't care who's back there unless it was Rocket. And
get away from the ball.
I scream every time. Get away from the football. I don't care. Field position, whatever. But yeah, unless it's Rocket back there, I'm nervous. And then Rocket was going to the house. Every time. Let's go. Rocket, we need you on the show, buddy. Come on. Kick returns was going to be Michael Young. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. I think you have Chris Fink and Avery Davis is another guy we mentioned. Yeah. He switched to defense to that. But Avery will be doing kickoff returns as well. We're hearing that the connection's a little bit choppy, so we do apologize for that. We're trying to work out our internet issues in here. We hope that by the time the season starts, we'll have better internet. So I do apologize if you're having some internet challenges there. Before we go on to our next segment here, we want to remind you guys that we're doing a giveaway. So we have a limited edition Ara Parsegian print from from Catherine Kiefer, the artist who does amazing work. Check her artwork out. This print is unbelievable. We have one here in our man cave. We'll be giving that away to anybody that goes to iTunes and subscribes, gives us a 5-star review, and leaves a review also. Screenshot that to us and message me, Jason Hendricks, on Facebook, or email us at doseleprechauns@gmail.com. Our next segment, we're going to get into a really quick... actually, first we're going to call Matt Dunbar, our staff writer, to talk a little bit about the Notre Dame team this year and what he likes and doesn't like and things like that. So we're going to get Dunbar on the horn here, and then we're going to start breaking down our opponents. Matt, how we doing, buddy? It's Jason and Nate.
Hey, going, guys?
Good. Thank you for taking a few minutes to talk. We got Matt Dunbar on the line right now, guys. Matt is our senior writer for the Dos Leprechauns media group. Did a great job with our other colleague, Pat McCormick and Jason Pruitt, on the article that's now on our page. Make sure you check it out and share it. Really, really great in-depth review of the team this year. So, Matt, I know you've been listening, breaking down the team a little bit. Give me one guy on offense and defense that maybe people aren't talking too much about that are going to be keys to this season.
Well, on the defensive side of the ball.
Alrighty. That was quite the take by Mr. Dunbar. Let's get him back on the horn here. I think he... Oh, let's see what
Hey, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Lost you for a minute.
You got everybody in suspense.
Yeah, let me go back on the defensive side of the ball. Like you guys were discussing earlier, I think my position that I'm most concerned with as far as on defense is going to be obviously the linebacker position. My player, I think that's going to be a key player. You can take your pick. It's either going to be Khalid Kareem on one end, or I'm losing my I'm forgetting here. Help me out here. Khalid Kareem is probably going to be my key player as far as defense goes this year.
Okay. What about Julian Okwara?
Yeah, Okwara is the other one. Khalid, whenever they did an interview a little while back with Khalid, and Khalid looked stacked. I mean, he looked like he had put on a good amount of muscle mass. As far as my key player on offense, something I noticed also is on the offense is going to be Ian Book. Ian Book did a great job this summer with Coach Bayless. Ian looks like he's coming into he came into fall camp in phenomenal shape. What I'd like to see from Ian is I'd like to see Ian work a little more, and I heard Nate mention it earlier, on the deep ball. That's something he has to work on. He has to have the confidence in himself to take those shots when they're there, because as we saw a couple times last year, I think it was in the USC game, he threw into double, almost even triple coverage on some passes, and got picked off. So obviously, Ian, we know he's got the short pass game down, but he needs to really work on the deep ball a little bit more and taking those shots when he has a receiver open.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Who do you see as a guy that maybe is flying under the radar a little bit? That we mentioned Wu. Obviously, I don't know if you can even consider him flying under the radar anymore because everybody's talking about how great of a camp he's having. But who's the guy that you see kind of coming in and saying, "Oh man, he emerges on the scene this year"?
Hey, I just want to throw this out there because I was proud of myself for actually trying to learn these players' names. It's Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa.
Koromoa, there we go.
Koromoa. That's the name. Jeremiah is the player that, last year we heard a little bit about him in camp.
Right.
And then I believe he suffered some injuries during fall camp. He's actually my player that had flown under the radar since he's been at Notre Dame. He's a player I think that we're going to see really break out this year. Jeremiah, from what we've been hearing in camp, he has great closing speed. He has the ability to go in. He's actually picked off Ian Book as well. So he is my player that's kind of under the radar. As far as defensively, another one, Sean Crawford. I can't say enough. We need Sean Crawford this year. We need him in the nickel packages. Sean has been missed. He's a guy that I had great hopes for when he came to Notre Dame, and unfortunately he suffered the knee, then the Achilles, and then the other knee. So he's a guy that I hope this year is going to actually have, for him, I hope he has a great year. He's a guy we're going to need to get through because we still have a little bit of inexperience at Houston Griffith, and they're still trying to get Houston ready. And Houston is, we had a lot of hopes for him as well. I still think he's going to be a great player in the near future.
Agreed. And we mentioned that it looks like Dante Vaughn might start at the field position, which is fine. The boundary position. But I think you're going to see a lot of Houston Griffith. I think he's a guy that is way too good to keep off the field. So I think he's going to probably end up being the starter here in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree as well. Dante, like you guys were saying earlier, Dante took a beating as far as from the fan base and in the media for his play in that Cotton Bowl game. And as Lynch chimed in, I tried to chime in on the Facebook Live feed. Dante Vaughn was playing that game with a shoulder injury,
Yep.
and if I'm not mistaken, had to have a surgical procedure done to make a fix after the Cotton Bowl.
Yes, sir.
So I always hate to beat a kid down whenever he's injured. It's a big difference if he just is not a great player. Well, we don't know what type of player he actually is because he played hurt, and yes, he got burned. And you can't take a kid that pretty much was a backup an entire season, sitting the bench behind one of our great corners, Julian Love,
right,
and expect him to come into that type of situation against that caliber of wide receivers and expect him to go in there and set the world on fire. That's not a fair expectation from the fan base.
So last thing here, Matt, and we're going to move on to our predictions, but we wanted to get your take first. Look, I know you've dove in deep to the roster, to the opponents, the talent, all that kind of stuff. If somebody had a gun to your head right now, what is your prediction, your record prediction this year for the Irish?
I think we have a very solid chance. Now, this is obviously barring injury. We have a very solid chance of going in 11-1.
Okay.
I'm not still. Everybody's saying that everybody expects us to lose to Michigan and Georgia. Well, Michigan, I just don't see it there. Michigan
I don't either.
lost a lot. The media is pumping them up. They're making them like a top 5 team. I just don't see Michigan as beating us this year. I think we actually go into the big house and we win that game. Like I said, my prediction is going to be 11-1.
Okay.
If you put a gun in my head with a loss to Georgia, the only other game that scares me is Stanford. We haven't beaten Stanford out in Palo Alto since 2007.
Yep.
So
we're very well aware of that. All right.
Yeah, that's my prediction, buddy.
All right, Matt. Well, hey, thank you for all you do for Dos Leprechauns, and I know the fans will be looking forward to reading you and Pat and Pruitt's reviews and analysis throughout the year. And again, thank you for all you do, and thank you for your service also.
Hey, you guys have a great day.
All right, brother.
Bye.
All right, we got a caller here on hold. We're going to bring them on. This is Dos Leprechauns. Who's this? Hey, what's going on, Doug? How are you?
Doing well. I'm driving down Iron Drive, just past Douglas.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. South Bend, Indiana. All right.
Living the dream, baby.
Yes, sir. So what's up, Doug? What's on your mind?
Oh, I was just, I'm excited about the season. I want to be true to my Irish roots and thinking we're going to just kill it, but there's a part of me thinking I'm holding the cards a little bit today.
Yeah. I spent quite a bit of time the last couple of days researching our schedule and our opponents, and I'm cautiously optimistic, but there are some things
right.
there are some games that definitely are going to scare me, and we'll talk more about this in our next segment here. But obviously Georgia going into Athens is going to be an absolute bear, possibly the toughest game we've had on the road since that Clemson game a few years ago, maybe even tougher than that. But also you can't overlook, Matt, our staff writer, just mentioned Stanford. Stanford is going to be really good. They're going to be a team that I think will surprise some people in the Pac-12, and we play them on the road, and we have a real tough time winning in Palo Alto. Kelly has yet to win in Palo Alto.
Wow.
So that's going to be tough. And then another team that nobody's talking about, and we'll get into this, Virginia is going to be right after Georgia. And Virginia is a hell of a football team. They've got Bronco Mendenhall, turned some things around there. They've got a defensive player that is a potential first-round draft pick next year, and they've got a good quarterback. So don't sleep on Virginia either. Virginia Tech, we've got some teams on the schedule that can pose some problems, but I think Coach Kelly's turned the corner a little bit, and I think we're going to really surprise a lot of people and show people that we are a top 5 program in the country year in, year out now.
What we battle is injuries and kids getting in trouble.
Well,
we can't. You know what I'm saying?
We really haven't.
We just have a bad luck.
The thing about the kids getting in trouble, I think this year has been an exception. We haven't really had anything. Kevin Austin did something, we don't know what.
Right.
But whatever, he's still practicing. He's not off the team. And then as far as injuries go, you obviously Cole Kmet, and then just hearing the news about Michael Young Jr. Those are obviously big blows, but every team in their camps go through injuries, and to me, it shows that we're working them hard in the offseason. We're playing hard, and we're actually going full tilt out there. So I think obviously it's not a good thing that we have those injuries, but I definitely think that, it could be worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not season ending, and I'm just thinking of the past 5-10 years, how it seems like every year there's a guy or two that gets in trouble, and it's like, well, he's gone, because we don't stand, we have standards.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not Bama and Clemson, I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the things that makes me love Notre Dame since I'm 6 years old. They do things the right way. They self-report when there's something to report. They hold their players accountable, and they're worried about graduating and winning a national championship. Coach Kelly says it all the time, and to me, that's important. So, all right, Doug. Well, hey, man, thank you for the call, and we'll definitely catch up soon.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to call in and say, hey, definitely see how you guys are doing.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Yep, have a good day, bro.
You too. Bye-bye. Go Irish.
Yep. Bye.
All right, so we're going to quickly get into, you probably saw the announcement yesterday, you have the All-American team, you have the All-SEC, All-ACC, all blah, blah, blah team, all Samoan team, all this. The team that everybody wants to be a part of, the team that every player in this country, especially Notre Dame, wants to be named to, is the All-Leprechaun team. And we're bringing that out, baby. The All-Leprechaun team, the first of its kind, Dos Leprechauns exclusive All-Leprechaun team. Nate and I are going to start this off this year by naming 2 players, one on each side of the football, that we think is going to be crucial to the success of this year's team. Could be somebody that everybody talks about, could be somebody that nobody talks about. We're going to name those guys. Each week, our team of writers and editors and podcast hosts are going to be doing an All-Leprechaun team for the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, and special teams for each game. So you'll see that right after each game, probably about an hour or so after the game. You'll see the logo. We're going to make some shirts. The All-Leprechaun team, you saw the logo. It's pretty sweet. So I'm going to start, and we'll go offense first, Nate, and then we'll go defense. My offensive All-Leprechaun team selection is going to be Tommy Tremble. I'm going to Tommy Tremble because I think he's a guy that can really come out and make a huge impact on the passing game. He is very tough to block. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, catch the football, good kid, he's smart. So Tommy Tremble is my offensive pick. Who's yours?
So for offensive, I have Jafar Armstrong.
Okay.
And I say that because Jafar has that speed that Dex did last year, and he's an okay blocker, and that's what Tony's going to be for, Tony Jones. So I think Jafar is going to have a good season for us.
I like that pick a lot, Nate. Good job. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going with the guy that seems to be somebody that we don't hear as much about at the defensive tackle position. I think he's a tremendous football player. He got hurt last year. I think he's somebody that's going to provide a burst when they call upon him because we talked about who's going to play nose with MTA and Heinisch kind of interchanging at the defensive tackle and nose positions. You're going to have Jacob Lacey in that mix. But a guy that I don't think people are talking enough about that's going to come on is Jamion Franklin. I love Jamion Franklin. He's got a high motor, aggressive kid, big kid, athletic kid. So Jamion Franklin as my defensive player for the All-Leprechaun team. Who you got on defense, Nate?
Well, I got Khalid Kareem.
All right.
He's going to bring the pressure this year, and I think he's going to go off what our defense did last year, especially D-line, where we got turnovers. It looked like almost every game except for maybe the Clemson game. And if we can do that, that's going to keep us in these hard games such as Georgia, Michigan, Stanford, Virginia.
Absolutely. Good pick, man. Yeah, Khalid Kareem is definitely a guy he's probably going to earn a lot of All-Leprechaun team honors this year because he's just a freak athlete and a beast. So I'm excited about that for sure. So good job. So that's your first selection for All-Leprechaun team. On the offensive side of the ball for me, you've got Tommy Tremble. For Nate, Jafar Armstrong. For defense on my side, you got Jamion Franklin. For Nate, you got Khalid Kareem. So that's your first All-Leprechaun team. Congratulations to those 4 guys. High honors. I'm sure they'd take that over All-American any day, but we'll once they graduate, we'll award them with a sticker or something. I don't know. All right, now we're going to get John Kennedy on the line. John is a podcast host for the Always Irish podcast. And
Hello.
Hey, John, how you doing, buddy? It's Jason and Nate, the Dos Leprechauns.
What's up, fellas? How's California?
Hot, crowded, and expensive.
That pretty much sums it up, huh?
That pretty much sums it up. We're going to be heading out to Fullerton here as soon as the show's over for my daughter's first archery tournament. So it's about 32 miles away, so we're going to give ourselves about an hour and 20 minutes to get there. So.
And I thought Chicago traffic was bad.
Dude.
I don't think I could do it.
No, it's brutal, and I can't wait to get out of here and get to Arizona. 6 years. Anyway, so hey, John, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where they can find your podcast, kind of what you do, that kind of thing.
Sure. So, first off, the easiest thing's probably Twitter. If you're in that big Notre Dame circle we have, people could just type in Always Irish. I'll pop right up. We're at JKZND4. And then the show's on YouTube as well. That's a really easy thing to search. Everybody has YouTube. And then the typical spots like iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. If you just type in Always Irish on any of those methods, you'll be able to find us. So whatever is most convenient for people.
Awesome. And one thing I really like, we got John Kennedy on the line here from the Always Irish podcast and Twitter handle. John and I have different approaches and different outlooks on certain things, but at the end of the day, we agree that we both love the Irish and we both want the best for the team. So that's what's great about his handle is that although we don't agree, we can still agree to disagree, and it doesn't get nasty. You know, you got some people. I mean, after the Clemson game last year, that was some of the nastiest stuff I've ever heard from our fan base. It was really disappointing. Nobody was happy, but it is what it is. It's football. We're gonna move on. They're gonna move on, and we're gonna continue to be Irish fans. So we need to remember that at the end of the day. That said,
I totally agree with that. And you know what else? You got to respect anybody who does this kind of stuff we're doing, putting time and effort, trying to do a show. And I respect everybody who's doing that. You know, even if we disagree, it's hard work and we put a lot of time into it. So it's good to have different perspectives too, because it keeps us all balanced.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's a healthy thing to have.
Couldn't agree more. Great take right there. So, John, I was going to say let's talk some specific position groups and things like that. I kind of just want to hear your overall outlook on this year's football team, where you see us going, what are some things you're concerned about, what are some things you're excited for?
Sure. So here's the overall theme I've been pushing on my show this spring into this fall session is with the personnel losses we have on both sides of the ball, particularly on defense, where most of your leadership is now in the NFL. I've been pushing that I want to see this year overall is Notre Dame and Brian Kelly finally to the point where we are talking about reloading and not rebuilding. And those are two vastly different tracks for a program. And that's what I want to see. I think Brian Kelly feels like he's got the best staff he's had recruiting and on field, and I agree with that. And this roster has the most speed and athleticism I think I've seen for a very long time. But there are certain areas that make me a little nervous, especially, call me Ray Charles, because I got Georgia on my mind. Okay? I just do. And so I've been trying to frame a lot of my stuff, looking at that as the big picture, reloading versus rebuilding. And I look, a lot of these discussions I'm having are tailored to how can we kind of match up with Georgia and make that work? And so that's been a lot of my focus because the first part of the season, that's your litmus test. That's going to tell you exactly where you stand against a roster loaded with talent. And so that's where I'm kind of starting from.
Okay. That's fair. That's very fair. And the reload versus rebuild is, like you said, it's really going to kind of define this season, right? Because you lose Drew Tranquill, you lose Tavon Coney, Julian Love, some just straight up Jerry Tillery, all these guys on defense that played huge crucial roles, and you're going to have to restock the cupboard, so to speak, with some guys that saw very little or no playing time, right? So I'm excited for the opportunity because I think some of the guys that were playing behind some of these guys, the Jeremiah, Owusu, Kamara guys, things like that, Jamion Franklin, Jacob Lacey, I think they've got the talent to make some things happen. But like you said, it's going to be, has the coaching staff done what they need them to do to prepare for 95,000 screaming fans in Athens, right? That's going to be, do you agree with me in that that's probably going to be the most hostile, difficult road environment since the Clemson game and the friggin' tsunami a few years ago?
I totally agree with that. You know, it's going to be the night game of the week. They're going to be down there drinking the whole time. Football's religion. Football's religion down there, and I respect the hell out of it. I mean, I love how crazy they are about football, and it's a great environment. Notre Dame fans are just a little nervous. You got that Miami thing that's still in people's minds, but then they handled the Virginia Tech, that whole build up, and so I'm always nervous going into that environment, and that's why I'm just on the edge of my seat already, waiting to see how they're going to show up. And so the way I look at this is, when I look at this team overall, especially the starters, on both sides, I can't, my mind and heart races to the middle of our defense as my primary concern overall, and especially against Georgia. I'm worried that what they're best at could be our weak point, especially early in the year, and that is the defense right up the middle. I mean, when I look at replacing Tillery, I don't see that big body 300-plus guy clogging up the middle. So we're relying on MTA, Jason Adamanola, Kurt Hinish, Jacob Lacey. The defensive end spots don't worry me, but we got to hold up in the middle. And like you said, that's the area I'm starting to look at. Can we hold up or do some other things with the defense to try and compensate for some of the unknowns that are there? And then you get back to the next line of defense, and then we got questions at linebacker. So that middle spot is where I'm kind of anxious. It could end up being fine, but for now, a question mark's a negative in my mind, and we got to still figure out exactly what we have right up the middle. That, to me, is the biggest question mark on the whole roster. I actually feel pretty darn good about most other position groups. I really do. So that's kind of my big focus is the question mark. That's the area I'm looking at early in the year.
So we've talked a lot about the defense here. Offensively, any concerns, anything you're particularly excited to see this season?
Obviously, for this offense to take the next step, we're all looking. We trust that Ian Book's going to do what he's already been efficient at. We got to see him take the next step to threaten to take the top off these defenses. So early on, we got speed at receiver we have not had in a long time, even with the recent injury to Michael Young. There's a lot of speed out there, and I've long been an advocate of letting your speed make plays. And so that needs to be the next step of the offense. I think they will figure out a suitable running back situation. I mean, I know that's a question, but I think there's enough there that they'll figure out who's good at what and find roles for them. Obviously, the offensive line, 25% of the runs last year were for 0 or negative yards. That's too much. I mean, I got to see that entire group mature and develop and take the next step. So offensively, I feel pretty darn good that it could be a more electric group, even with the loss of Dexter and Miles. I really do feel that. And for me to say that, that's something. Because I'm always the glass half empty guy.
No, I agree 100%. I'll be honest, my biggest concern on offense, the entire offensive side of the football, is like you mentioned on defense, is up the middle, and that's guys like, and that's our center, Jarrett Patterson. He's a redshirt sophomore who has never played center before, ever. And he's expected to replace a 4-year starter in Sam Mustipher and pick up a fairly complex scheme that Chip Long likes to run. So I'm concerned about the center position, but I think that if they had a huge concern there, they might have made some adjustments already. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But that's probably my only real question mark / concern on the offense side of the football.
I'm very excited. This offense, Chip and Brian talk all the time about we need to be more explosive. I want to see that. I hope they honestly mean that. Yeah. I want to see we got athletes now that we haven't had in a long time. Let them make plays. Get them the ball. Use what Ian Book's good at. Get them the ball and let them do what nature intended them to do, and that's make plays with their speed. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think you're going to see that.
We finally have those guys.
And for my boy Benny Grimm watching right now, I hope we see a lot of jet sweeps. But I'm being facetious there because Benny Grimm, one of our staff guys, is a huge jet sweep fan. Every time you get a guy out there like Braden Lindsey, he wants them to run the jet sweep. So we'll see what happens.
Let speed do what speed does.
Absolutely. No, and speed kills, right? So I think you saw that with Clemson last year, and I think we're going to see a much more explosive unit this year, and I'm excited for it. So, all right, John, I asked Matt, our senior staff writer, if he had a gun to his head, to give us a record prediction. I normally don't like to do this, but I'm going to ask you to do it. Give us let's just say your best case, your glass half full prediction for this year's football team.
Best case, I just think probably 11-1. I just think you catch a loss somewhere, whether it's Georgia early. It is tricky. I hate playing the game of our 3 biggest games are on the road, so we're going to lose a couple. I hate that. But it is a factor playing at the big house, at Stanford, at Georgia.
Sure.
But I think you're looking 11-1. There's just too many questions inside defensively that make me just a little nervous. I got to see things stabilize before I get too excited there about what we have. So that would be, for me, kind of the top-end scenario, which in a year where you lost so much leadership and playmakers on the field, that would be reloading to me.
Sure. Yeah, reloading 11-1. You can't ask for much more than that when we talk about the guys that were lost. So that's a good take right there. I tend to agree, and we're gonna here in the next segment we're gonna get into our game by game predictions and things like that. But I think 11-1 is very likely. I agree with you. I'm very, very, very nervous about Georgia. But there's some other sneaky good teams on there. Stanford lost a lot, but it's still Stanford. It's still at Palo Alto. Virginia is going to be really good this year.
And you know what, Virginia? I've had Virginia circled.
Yeah.
That's the trap. That is no matter what happens in Georgia, that coming home that next week to Virginia is the ultimate trap, because you're going to be beat up emotionally. Everybody's going to be really high or really low.
Yep.
And Virginia's underrated. They have a quarterback that doesn't get any attention, that's ultra efficient and good.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Bronco Mendenhall, who's always played Notre Dame tough, undermanned at BYU.
Yes, sir. And they have
I've had that circled from the beginning as the ultimate trap.
And you'll hear me talk about it in the Virginia preview. They have a cornerback that's going to be playing in the NFL next year. So they're a good football team, somebody you can't take lightly. And let's be real, man, they're still going to be pissed off about the dead Virginia kid when Will Fuller and Deshaun Kaiser, gave it to him a few years ago.
Yeah, you're right. But on the flip side of that, I think with the talent on this roster, 9-3 would be a disaster. It just would be. There's too much talent to lose 3 of these games this year. There just is.
Anytime the Irish lose, I am completely I may not seem that way, but I'm 100% devastated. I'm angry. It ruins my weekend, the whole thing, just like you. I just expressed it differently, but that's besides the point. But I agree, though. 9-3 would be a difficult pill to swallow after the 12-0 perfect season. And I feel like 9-3 is kind of like, have we rebuilt or are we reloading? And then where do we go from here? Because then next year you're going to have – I feel like next year's offseason is going to have more question marks than this offseason. I mean, what happens with Ian Book? Does he come back? He's got a lot of running backs. So we don't even need to get there yet. But,
that's a big – and you know what else is the big swing factor? And I've even said this on my show. Everybody who listens to me knows I have no patience for special teams mistakes. I am terrified special teams could cost us one of these dumb games because we can't get a field goal off or something dumb. So that's an issue with a new punter and a new kicker. That could be where you find a way to lose one of these dumb games you have no business losing. And I have no patience for special teams that are bad, and I will lose it. So that's another thing that I'm worried about.
No, I hear you. I'm going to be honest with you. And we had Justin Yuna on the other day, and I didn't get too nasty with him, but I'm going to be honest, man. I have some serious concerns with Jonathan Doer. I mean, he has a hard time kicking the freaking football inbounds on a kickoff. So
exactly. And then, so what I've said is on my show, if that's the way it is, and Chip and Brian want to make their minds up to be more aggressive, when you get to a certain part of the field,
go for it.
I'm fine with them planning on having 2 downs to get it on 3rd and 4th and play call for that.
Absolutely.
Because who do you trust most? Ian Book, right?
Yep.
And so I trust him to navigate a 3rd and 4th and mid or short more than I do a kicker who we just don't know what we're going to get. So give him chances the first 2 games, which shouldn't be close. And let that inform your approach going down to Athens, because you cannot give away 1 point when you go down there.
No, agreed.
It's too much.
Agreed.
So that really is another issue where I could see them losing some dumb game they have no business losing.
You make a good point, man. It's hard to argue with anything you just said there. And, hey, John, I appreciate you jumping on this morning, and I look forward to talking football with you, talking Notre Dame football with you the entire season, man.
No problem, brother. Thanks for the invite, and keep it real out there in Cali.
Yes, sir. Go Irish.
Later, brother.
All right, that was John Kennedy, the Always Irish podcast. Again, he and I, if you follow that guy, you'll know he's an extremely intelligent football guy. He really is. I enjoy listening to his podcast. I enjoy some of his takes on Twitter. We differ on the way we handle losses. I get depressed and want to drink myself to death. He gets angry and vents, and that's either one is okay. Our big thing, and you'll learn this if you're a new Dose Leprechaun subscriber, whether it be on iTunes, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, our Facebook page. We don't get nasty. We don't get negative. There's going to be times where we don't even really get critical, and that sometimes is a thing that people don't like, and that's okay. We're gonna keep it that way. We love Notre Dame football. We love talking about Notre Dame football. We're never going to attack the players. We're never going to attack the coaches, etc. So if that's not your thing, then we are okay with you finding another podcast. That's just what we're going to continue to be. So I want to thank John for jumping on there. Okay, we're going to get one more segment here. We were going to spend a lot of time on this. I think instead we're going to kind of breeze through this and just say win or loss on these teams and maybe talk about a few key players. We're going to go through each week and kind of talk about some of the things going on each of these teams. So I'll give a little bit of a background, and Nate and I will both say if we think we win or lose that one, and then we'll do a season recap there. So we're going to start with Louisville. On the road against Louisville, Puma Pass and Malik Cunningham are their 2 quarterbacks are going to be battling it out. Their O-line gave up 43 sacks last year, so Khalid Kareem and Julian Aguirre are likely to have a field day. I think this is a good first game to kind of get the young team, acclimated with the road environment and the speed of the college football game. game. Defensively, the Cards have some returning talent. They're small but physical and athletic up front. Aponte Caban is a pretty decent player. At linebacker, you've got a transfer from Colgate and T.J. Hull, who was a FCS All-American. So they've got some guys that can play, but definitely don't have the talent really anywhere on the field that's going to be superior to the Irish. So that's a win for me. What do you got, Nate?
Yeah, I got a win. I think it's going to be a blowout. Yeah.
I actually disagree. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think there's going to be a lot of nerves. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of not really showing your hands too much because you want to save some for Georgia. I think that's going to be kind of your classic season opener with some new guys breaking themselves in. I see us winning, but maybe by no more than 10-13. It's a road environment. They're going to be fired up. So I got us winning probably by about 10-13, somewhere in that range. New Mexico, 2 seasons in a row under Bob Davie, going 3-9. Bob Davie's making his first ever return to Notre Dame. For those of you who are new fans, Coach Davie was the coach right after Lou Holtz. Had a very up and down career, I guess you could say, at Notre Dame. Ended pretty badly. He was the first coach that really, when I was a younger fan under Coach Holtz, it was an absolute rarity to lose a football game. Like I went into every game thinking, man, there's no chance we'd lose this one, and typically we would win and win pretty convincingly in a lot of cases. When Coach Davie came around, it became, dang, I hope we can win this one. Even some of the teams you shouldn't be losing to. So that's kind of where that started to shift. So I don't know. I just I still don't have a lot of good feelings for Bob Davie. But anyways, at New Mexico, they are not good. They had 2, 3, and 9 seasons in a row. They do return 4 starters on the O-line, but none of them are all that great. They have a senior quarterback that can move around a little bit. His name's Sherrod Jones. He's decent, but I mean he's going to be running for his life half the time, I believe. They returned just 2 defensive starters from a team that gave up an average of 36.2 points per game. So they're going to have some trouble. Their nose tackle, Aaron Blackwell, had 29 tackles and 2 sacks last year, so he's decent. I think Jarrett Patterson will have his hands full, but they'll probably just bring somebody over to help double that guy up. And that one, I do think, home opener for the Irish after a bye week. I think we win that one big. I would say at least 2, maybe 3 touchdown win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another one to start out the season 2-0.
Oh, gosh, here we go. Then we're going on the road to Athens, trying to come back and get some revenge on the game that I think the Irish would have won if not for that BS late hit call against Julian Okwara as we were starting to get some momentum back. So, I mean, Georgia is an absolute juggernaut. They just are. I really think Georgia, when I look at teams like Alabama and Clemson is the best team in the country to me, and it's not even close. I think Alabama is really good, but I think Clemson if they end up in the national championship together, I think Clemson blows them out again. I think they blow their doors off. Tracy Lawrence and Travis Etienne, all those receivers, whatever his name is, Kelly Leak. They're just absolutely on another level. But Georgia, to me, in my opinion, is probably the second best team in the country. They are loaded everywhere. They got some good young talent coming in. Jake Fromm, it all starts and ends with him. 30 touchdowns with just 6 interceptions as a sophomore. He'll be a junior. He'll be playing on Sundays. I would imagine he'll probably be top 2 or 3 pick in the 2020 draft for the NFL. You got junior Jeremiah Holloway is Fromm's favorite target. Pride's going to have his hands full with that one. The running backs are elite. DeAndre Swift rushed for over 1,000 yards last year despite having some injuries. Zamir White, who was the number 1 running back in the country in 2018 out of high school. So a huge 1-2 punch at running back that's going to keep your linebackers and defensive tackles and ends busy. The offensive line is anchored by an All-American in Andrew Thomas. They're just beyond loaded on the offensive side of the ball. Their D-line, you could call it a weakness, but even their D-line is probably better than most of the D-lines we'll face in the season during the season. They don't really have any elite players, but they have a rotation of guys. Tyler Clark, Julian Rochester, they're returning seniors, but they've been a little bit inconsistent, but they've got a lot of experience. The linebacker group is probably the best linebacker group in the country. You've got Walter Grant, Brenton Cox, and Robert Beal. There's no other way to say it. They are studs. Just absolute beasts. Secondary has a lot of talent and experience. You got DeAndre Baker, who hasn't given up a touchdown in 2 seasons, so he'll be a guy playing on Sundays, probably a first-round draft pick. Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes were both freshmen last year, but they are good, and they showed a lot of promise. Junior Reed and Richard LeCount are studs at the safety position. So you got some guys there that can play in the secondary. Their place kicker, their kicker, Rodrigo Blankenship, is one of the best kickers in the nation. I mean, he's automatic, basically. So, man, I think honestly, I really do think we can win this football game. I think it's going to be very close. This is a program-defining game for the Irish. If the Irish can go into Athens and beat Georgia, you erase all the talk of Ryan Kelly can't win the big games. You erase all the talk of Ian Book isn't a Heisman-level quarterback. You erase all the talk of, Notre Dame is still just Notre Dame and is not going to be able to be that top 3-ish team in the country. We have to win this game. It's a must-win. I honestly cannot remember a game with bigger stakes. A lot of it will determine on how the first 2 games go. I think we win the first 2 games pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
But if we go out there and we're making silly mistakes and we're looking like crap and whatever else is happening, you're getting injuries, you're getting all these things, then that game may not be as big. But if we go in there 2-0, beating the piss out of those 2 teams that we play first, then that Georgia game is going to be absolutely massive because Georgia's going to win their first 2 games. I don't even know who they play their first 2 games. Doesn't matter. They're going to win them.
Yeah.
But I got us winning, for the record. Very close.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge game for us. It's going to really decide how the rest of our season goes because if we lose that game, then it's going to be like, oh, how are we going to respond from that?
Yeah.
How are we going to go into Michigan and beat them? But if I got us winning 28-31.
Yeah, no, I like that prediction. Okay, so we get down to Georgia, we're moving on to Virginia. As of right now, Nate and I both have us at 3-0. Virginia is tough as nails. Me and John talked about that. I've talked about it a lot. Bryce Perkins, their quarterback, huge fan. Really, he's a good football player. He had over 3,600 total yards last year, capped off with a good showing against South Carolina in the bowl game last year. They have a really deep wide receiver group led by Joe Reed. They have a transfer, Terrell Chapman, who played with Perkins over at Arizona State before they transferred over to Virginia. They returned 6 starters on defense that was really dominant at times last year. Their secondary has probably the best, I would say one of the best overall players will play all year in cornerback Bryce Hall. He'll be a first-round draft pick next year. So that's going to be somebody that Ian's going to want to stay away from. They also have an All-ACC Rookie of the Year, Brenton Nelson, who was hurt a little bit last year, but also is a playmaker. And then the defensive line is inexperienced, but they have a playmaker in Eli Hanback, who is a force. Bronco Mendenhall, love him as a coached at BYU. He's really turned the Virginia program around. I have us winning this one. I do have us trailing for a good part of the game. I honestly think that they're going to give us all we can handle because, as John mentioned, it's going to be an emotional high coming off of Georgia, so it's going to be tough. It's tough to win in Notre Dame, but Virginia's going to come in ready to go. Bronco has his team ready, and he's tough as nails. They're tough as nails. I have us winning a squeaker, 20-17. I really think that's going to be a game that we're going to be on heart attack alert and upset alert, quite frankly. They'll be a top 25 team, I bet, when they roll in, and it'll be well-deserved. They got some talent all over the place.
I have us winning by 10, actually.
Okay. Hope you're right.
11, but 21-10.
Okay. I like that prediction, too. So moving on to the hated ones, FUSC, SC comes into town. We've handled SC lately. It's hard to explain. I don't understand what we get from that team this year. Last year's SC team should have been a lot better. You saw them give the Irish all they could handle in the first half. They have, no matter what happens with SC, they're always going to recruit these 5-star California kids that can play and want to play for the tradition of SC, want to be a Trojan, want to be close to home, all that. It all starts with quarterback JT Daniels from Santa Ana Mater Dei. He's just a great quarterback. There's no way around it. He's going to be somebody that maybe not this year, but I think his junior year will be a Heisman contender, no doubt about it. I really worry about this team when we have to go to the Coliseum next year. This year, I think they're still going to be figuring things out. I think they're either going to respond and play their hearts out for Clay Helton, or they're going to fold and we'll kick the crap out of them. That said, you got JT Daniels. You've got Amara St. Brown, who is probably my least favorite college football athlete, but he is that. He's an elite athlete. Anytime he touches the ball, he's a threat to score, whether it be on special teams or offense. Michael Pittman Jr. is another receiver last year that really started to tear us up, but I think they shut him down this year. The offensive line will struggle. They don't have much depth and only 2 returning starters, so that's somewhere we'll be able to capitalize. It's got to get a lot of pressure on JT Daniels. Running back Stephen Carr, who's another local kid, is pretty good. But then another familiar face that's had the best camp is Marquise Stepp, who was a Notre Dame commit, actually was on campus and then decided to decommit and go to SC. He's actually had a really good camp, so I think he'll do well. Defensively, the Trojans don't have a lot of standout players. They got some guys who can play defensive end. Defensive end is probably the strong point on defense. That's Christian Rector and Drake Jackson. Jay Tafuli is a defensive tackle with some talent, but I don't think SC is ready for us yet, especially in South Bend. It'll be close because they have talent. They have guys that can score from anywhere on the field. They have speed and size, but they don't have the depth. They'll probably be coming in with some injuries already right off the bat, so I think the Irish win that one. Not convincingly, but I think we'll lead the whole game, and I think it'll be back and forth, but we'll end up pulling that one out.
Yeah, we definitely win that game.
Okay. Virginia Tech comes into town. Exit Sandman. Justin Fuente always has his team ready to go. That's another tough one because they lost some talent, but they also have some guys coming back. Damon Hazelton, a receiver, and Trey Turner they're really good football players, so I think they could have a good season. They have a couple linebackers that are really good. One of them was highly recruited by the Irish, and Dax Holyfield. Dylan Rivers is the other guy. They've got some corners that are pretty good, and Caleb Farley and Bryce Watts. So they're a good football team, but last year the Irish beat them when they had a little bit more talent, so I think Notre Dame wins by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Duke, I'm not going to spend much time on them because I hate Duke because of what they did to me when they came into South Bend in 2016. That said, David Cutcliffe always has his team ready to go. They're replacing a first-round draft pick at quarterback, so I think they're going to struggle offensively. I just don't think they have the firepower on either side of the ball to compete. I think we win by at least 10.
Yeah, I think we won by 17, actually.
Okay. Then Navy. We have Navy coming in. Ken Niamalala Tololo brings his team in ready to go. They're going to lose a lot. They're going to struggle this year, but they still are Navy.
Yeah.
And they're going to run the triple option, and it's going to be a pain in the ass to watch. It's going to be crazy. You're going to respect them. They're the one team that I can't go crazy on when they're out there and want to, because it's Navy. I mean, they're defending our country. That said, Malcolm Perry is going to return to his familiar quarterback position spot, so I think he'll have some stability there where they didn't have that last year. They really don't have much more than that. They have a couple linebackers that can play. Offensive line is just too small to compete with our guys. I think we win huge on that one.
Yeah, we win by 3 touchdowns, I think.
All right. Boston College is sneaky tough. A.J. Dillon is a all-conference running back, probably going to end up being an All-American, probably going to end up being a first or second-round draft pick. Steve, what's his last name? Dinazio is always the guy that has his team ready to go. Isaiah McDuffie is a good football player on the defensive side of the ball. So they got some talent. That's senior day, so it's always going to be that emotional high. They'll be wearing the throwback 88 jerseys. I don't think Coach Holtz will probably be hanging around getting people fired up. So although Boston College is tough, always plays us tough, likes to play spoiler, I think we win pretty convincingly on that one as well. And you know what? I freaking missed Michigan on here. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah.
How could I forget Michigan? Anyways, Michigan is after the at USC week. We go to the Big House. Josh Gaddis is the new offensive coordinator who's going to bring that up-tempo offense for Shea Patterson and his favorite target, Donovan Peoples-Jones. That one does concern me. I think Michigan is highly overrated considering they lost so much talent on defense last year and offense. That said, that's going to be a dogfight, and it's 106,000 people in the Big House, and it's Michigan, and they're pissed because we've just waxed them the last couple years. Last couple times we've played them, so I do have some concerns about that game. I think we win, but I think it's going to be extremely, extremely close. I think it'll come down to like a last-second field goal or a last-second drive or something like that. It's going to be back and forth. I just don't think Michigan's as good as everybody thinks they are, but they're going to have the home field advantage. They're going to have people playing for Harbaugh's job. They're going to have the fans going nuts. So it's going to be an emotional roller coaster that I think will keep it closer than it would have been if it was in South Bend, but I think the Irish take that one.
I totally agree. I'd say we would lose if they had a quarterback. Shea Patterson is not good.
I agree.
He cannot throw the ball, and he honestly lost the game for him last year. Too many turnovers, came out of the game randomly. And
yeah, no, I'm 100% with you, Nate. I don't think Shea Patterson's very good. I think Josh Gaddis coming in with that up-tempo style is going to fit him a little bit better, but I still just don't think he's as good as everybody thinks he is. Okay, so we missed that one, but now we've closed out the season on the road in Palo Alto. The Dos Leprechauns will be there live and in living color. We'll have a huge tailgate, so as we get closer, look for announcements on that. Actually, right after this breakdown, we're going to call Katie Kilbane, who's the president of I think it's the Sacramento County Club of Notre Dame, who's handling all the pregame festivities and everything like that. But anyways, getting to the actual game, the Cardinal returns KJ Costello, who is one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. They have some questions at running back, but they're still going to be a tough team that will be coached very, very well because, quite frankly, David Shaw is one of my favorite coaches besides Brian Kelly. Osiris St. Brown is a playmaker at wide receiver, Equinemius and Emra's brother. Offensive line is one of the best the Irish will face. They have an All-American, All-World Walker Little, who is just a freak athlete. Their defense is going to have probably, besides Bryce Hall, one of the other best players we'll face all year, and Paulson Adebo. That guy is flat out nasty. Going to have to really play for him. He's a game breaker. Ebony is new but talented on the other side of the corner position. They got Jovan Swan, who's a top linebacker. He had 5 sacks last year. Cardinal are going to compete this year in the Pac-12. That said, Coach Kelly goes into Palo Alto and gets his first win as the Irish head coach on the road against Stanford.
I really wish I could be confident about this game.
Oh, I'm not confident at all about the game at all.
I know.
But I think we're going to win.
I just don't see us winning because,
enough.
If we had won, I don't know, 2 years ago in Palo Alto, I'd feel more confident. But since we haven't won,
it's a totally different team, though.
Well, still.
I think this team is special. There's something about this team that feels really good to me. Being blessed and having the opportunity to go to fantasy camp and seeing the unit together. I just feel like they're so locked in. They're so bought into the sharpen the axe, as Coach Kelly said the whole time. And I think they've been doing that all practice long. I just think that they're as locked in as I've ever seen an Irish team ready to go. The brotherhood they have is tremendous, and I think that really is going to separate them from a lot of the teams they play. So I have us going 12-0. Sounds like, Nate, you have us at 11-1. I think the ceiling is 12-0. I really do think we could go undefeated, even though Georgia is going to be. If you actually had to tell me I had to pick one loss on the schedule, it'd be Georgia, of course. Mm-hmm. That said, I think we pull it out. I think the ceiling is 12-0. I think the floor could be 10-2. I could see there's a couple games that I could see being swing games that could go either way. Georgia, Michigan, Stanford, and Virginia. Those are the 4 games that I'm probably the most worried about. Boston College could go either way. Quite frankly, Louisville with all the weird, playing on Labor Day evening, having a bye week the next week. There's still a lot of weird stuff on that one. Yeah. So that's one that kind of has me a little concerned. We'll see. I mean, you got a returning quarterback who's a stud. You've got a deep running back group. You've got a pretty experienced deep wide receiver group, some talented tight ends, a great offensive lineman coming back, other than one position that we didn't have kind of a question mark. Defensively, we're filling some key holes, but I think there are guys there that are athletic enough to make it happen. So I'm all over the place, man, on that. I'm sorry, but I really do see this. I really think we potentially could go 12-0. As I mentioned, there's 2. I think it could be a difference of 2 games where a ball bounces one way, as John Kennedy from Always Irish mentioned. It could be a special teams blunder that could cost us a loss or 2, maybe to Georgia, maybe to Michigan, Virginia, something like that. But if those things don't happen and some of the young, inexperienced, talented guys play to their potential, I think 12-0 is very realistic. That said, I think there's probably going to be, just as I'm looking at the schedule, at least 6 games that will probably be straight up heart attack specials. Probably games where I'm pulling out hairs. Probably games where I have to throw my jersey because I'm getting too hot and sweaty. Probably games where I have to drink and deal with my gout afterwards. So it's going to be interesting, but I still think that's going 12-0. So let's. We talked about the Stanford game. We're going to call Katie really, really quick. Katie Kilbane. Just to have her update us on all the festivities for the Stanford weekend.
Hello.
Hey, Katie, how we doing? It's Jason and Nate, those Leprechauns.
I'm good. How are you? I was just watching your live feed.
Yes, we wanted to bring you on real quick, just to give folks a little bit of an update. I know you have a very big announcement that we announced. And just talk a little bit about what's going on for the Notre Dame Stanford festivities in Palo Alto this year.
Well, first off, before I get to Stanford, I just want to say that the Louisville Club is putting together an amazing opening season weekend. So shout out to the Notre Dame Club of Greater Louisville. I'm so excited to be representing Sacramento in Louisville for the season opener. On that note, with Stanford, yes, we have a huge announcement, and a majority of people already know this, but I can officially say that Coach Lou Holtz is going to be the keynote speaker for the 2019 Legends Luncheon in San Francisco on November 29th. As far as other details, just keep watching the Eventbrite page and our website for ticket prices and all that fun stuff. So we're really excited to have Coach Holtz with us to celebrate, 30 years of the Legends Trophy and our rivalry with Stanford. We still have tickets available for the game through August 31st. So if you don't already have your tickets, please buy them through us. You can get an unlimited amount of tickets and also help the scholarship fund of the clubs of I cannot talk today. The Notre Dame clubs of Northern California, and we are setting a goal for ourselves, and hopefully we can get a lot of help from Irish Nation, but we want to raise $150,000 for our scholarship fund that benefits the 5 clubs of Northern California. So we will have sponsorship opportunities as well to sponsor for the luncheon, the tailgate, pep rally, you name it. Like I said, we're in the process of putting those sponsorships together. Awesome. And I have to say, Nate, I disagree with you when it comes to Stanford, only because they are expected to only win 6 or 7 games this season. Oh. So with that, hopefully, they won't come in guns blazing towards the end of the season, but knowing Stanford, they probably will. And I have all the confidence in the world, and I'm so excited to get to say this, Captain Ian Buck.
Oh, yeah.
That he is going to lead the offense in ways that we have never seen in our lifetime. So I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of the entire team. They've worked really hard through camp, and it's going to be an exciting season. So
the Book of Ian is about to be a good book to read.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a good book to read, but this edition of it's going to be special, and it's going to be very exciting. So it's a great time to be from Northern California, and with Ian and with Isaiah and just all of the boys from Northern California representing and California in general. So we're excited. We're planning really hard. We're getting close to the 100-day mark before kickoff. So get your tickets now and keep watching for more information in regards to the Legends Luncheon. But yes, I can confirm officially Lou Holtz is the keynote speaker.
And that is so.
And he might even be bringing some friends too. We don't know.
All right.
So as we get more information, those leprechauns will be the first ones for the exclusive. But just keep following, and thanks for being a supporter of the Notre Dame Stanford Committee.
Always, and we appreciate you allowing us these opportunities. We're really excited to be a part of it, and we'll be here to help any way we can.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited for this partnership, and I'm just excited for the season to start. Like I said, I'm actually going to Louisville. I leave on August 29th, so watch, my Facebook feed for pictures and the club's Facebook Live for videos from Louisville and the start of the 2019 Notre Dame football season. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Well, Katie, thank you as always for everything you do for the Irish and the Northern California Book Club and Sacramento Notre Dame Fan Club. We appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you down the road in Palo Alto.
Absolutely, and thank you guys for everything you do too. It's podcasts like this that keep Irish Nation together and one big family across the country. So Absolutely. Go Irish, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you guys in Palo Alto on November 30th, and hopefully seeing everyone at the Legends Luncheon on November 29th.
Yes, ma'am.
So go Irish. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Irish. See you later.
Bye.
All right. So yeah, we are super excited to be a part of the Legends Luncheon. We're going to be, as far as I know, broadcasting it live from the Legends Luncheon, getting to hear Lou speak. So definitely let us be your #1 provider for on-site coverage. Just a quick reminder about that too. So we will have a correspondent at every single game this year for the Notre Dame 2019 football season. So somebody going live from the festivities, from the pep rallies, from the the games themselves. So we're really excited to be one of the only sites that can offer that. We are a fan-run site, but we really try to give you fair, balanced, and accurate reporting out there. We have a team of great writers, and I mentioned Matt Dunbar, who called in earlier. We've got Jason Pruitt, we've got Patrick McCormick, Jason Lynch, who's our editor for all the edits you've seen for the countdown, Benny Grimm helping with the countdown as well. Got Leprechaun Nate here doing some edits also, and obviously my co-host. So we just appreciate everything you guys are doing. One quick last final reminder, we'll put this in the show notes and probably send it out there. Please go on iTunes, download our podcast, give us a review, give us a like and a share and all that kind of stuff. Screenshot your review and your 5-star rating and send it to my inbox or to our email at doseleprechauns@gmail.com for an opportunity to win a limited edition, very rare, very beautiful print, Ara Parseghian print from Kathleen Kiefer. That's going to be available. So we'll put that out there as well. So that's it for us today. We really appreciate you watching. We will be dark until we come back for the Louisville preview game on Monday, Labor Day, for the first game of the season. We're 15 days out. Until then, please like, share, and comment this Facebook post, this live feed. And again, give us a review on iTunes. We greatly appreciate it. I want to thank Brian Little, our producer, for getting everything up and running on iTunes and Spotify and iHeart. We really appreciate your support, buddy. And with that, we're going to sign off and say, go Irish, beat Louisville.